Today's guest is Ben Benjamin.
Ben Benjamin Bender. First name Ben, middle name Benjamin.
I was thinking I nailed it. I didn't say Benjamin.
That's awesome. If it makes you feel any better, I signed our marriage certificate, Bender Benjamin, and then we had to go get a new marriage certificate.
Aww.
So we weren't technically married until like
Yeah.
a week
funny.
later.
All right. Today's guest is Ben Bender, and I've known Ben for probably 12 years at least.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I've watched you grow. You're 25, super intentional in lots of areas, and so I've asked you to be a guest. And I think part of what makes you extraordinary in who you are is probably some of your upbringing.
Yeah.
So could you kind of, jumping right in, could we talk, Ben, about how you were brought up and raised, and how that was a foundation for you to go to college,
Totally,
and get a job and be a dad and now mentor and husband, and there's so many things you are.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, really appreciate that. I'm excited to be on the podcast. But yeah, so I grew up in a very conservative Christian home. Maybe the most important aspect of the home in which I grew up is that I had two loving parents. I never went a day doubting whether or not they loved each other, whether or not they loved me. And as I got older, I began to realize how much of a rarity that is in today's culture. And so that really had a profound impact on me, because I think it gave me a sense of security that fewer and fewer people have. I didn't have to go through as much of the existential kind of identity crisis.
Sure.
Because there was that foundation of, I am loved by my parents. More importantly, I'm loved by God. And I have a purpose that's connected to my identity in community.
Sure.
And so just kind of that biblical foundation of like, I've been created by an intentional God, by a God who is community and who creates from and for community in the Trinity, and invites us into the love that is himself. Just really gave me a sense of security and confidence and assurance of identity that I think is increasingly rare in kind of a postmodern, post-Christian world. So that was really impactful and formative for me.
How many siblings do you have?
6 siblings. So oldest of 7, 6 siblings, and which I think also really lent to a healthy upbringing in the sense that there's little room to be selfish. Like you gotta.
Well, you can still be selfish.
You totally can.
I'm
totally
one of 10, and if we wanted seconds, you ate fast.
That's valid. That's valid. That's so true.
Which is pure selfishness.
Yeah. That is very fair. But yeah, 6 siblings, and it was a good time, man. It was a good time. But yeah, I think another thing that really impacted me growing up was, as part of kind of that rootedness in my identity, I began to develop passions for certain causes that were really important to me. I felt like, because I'd been created by an intentional God, like I could actually make an impact in the world. So I got really involved in like a lot of pro-life advocacy, a lot of things on the political front in high school. And that gave me opportunities to develop skills like public speaking, interpersonal skills, social skills, how to just have a conversation with somebody. Again, all things that as I got older, I started to realize these are not like normal kid things.
Yes.
Like these are not skills that 99% of the populace just has. And so it gave me a real appreciation for the environment in which I grew up and the way that my parents had kind of crafted reality.
Have you ever heard of Teen Pack?
Yeah, I did Teen Pack.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. I say I did Teen Pack. I did the they did these like kind of spin-off, I want to say spin-off episodes. That's a dumb way of describing it. But they did these like little kind of 3-day
boot camps.
Mock trial boot camps.
Okay, yeah.
I-elect was the one that I did. And so it was like a mock presidential election.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those were amazing.
And you really ate that up at that point.
I did.
Because you were enjoying the political stuff.
Yeah.
And understanding how that worked.
Yeah.
And that's what, we've done Teen Pack, familiar with it.
Yeah.
But I love it because it teaches kids, teenagers, how the government works.
100%. Yeah, which is a very helpful practical knowledge. I think the other reason that I'm so appreciative for things like that in retrospect is it gave me a context in which to use my capacity. So I think that a lot of people have gifts, they have talents, they have abilities that they've never realized are useful because nobody's ever given them a community in which to realize them. And so for me, I was like, oh, I now know that I can do public speaking. I now know that I'm good with people. I now know that I can network and make connections and these kinds of things because my parents gave me, in the form of opportunities like that, a context where I could start flexing my interpersonal muscles, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me your journey through. You're a homeschool kid.
Yeah.
You finish.
Yeah.
You go to college.
Yeah.
If I remember right, weren't you going to be a lawyer?
Yeah, initially that was the plan. So I wanted to be an attorney and get into politics, just kind of follow that. That was something that was really meaningful to me in high school. Still is really meaningful to me in a lot of ways. So I thought, well, I love doing this. I have some skills that are relevant to this. Let's keep doing it. And the big shift for me was in college, the summer after my freshman year, so summer going into my sophomore year. I went to Oklahoma Wesleyan, a little Christian school in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And I served on camp teams. So I was a camp counselor at 5 or 6 different camps.
Okay.
A couple in Michigan, Indiana, Oregon, back in Oklahoma. And that was when I really started falling in love with youth ministry. And I think that's where the depth of cultural decay really became real to me in a personal way, not just like a mechanistic way. Because I think the downfall of being not overly politically involved, but one of the shadow sides I think of being politically involved is you can begin to reduce all kind of socioeconomic phenomena to just that, socioeconomic phenomena. And you can miss the people at the heart of that. And so being on camp teams really, I think, enabled me to begin seeing a lot of what's going on in culture as people problems, heart problems, ultimately spiritual problems. And so that started shifting my focus. I was like, okay, if I'm passionate about politics because I want to solve some of these issues that I'm seeing in culture, would my energy be better focused elsewhere? And would it be better focused investing in the people who are being damaged by culture in a lot of ways? So that kind of shifted my focus into youth ministry. At the time, I was a marketing major. The plan was to major in business and then get a law degree.
Gotcha. So
marketing major. Well, started as an accounting major, switched to marketing because I was like, I don't like accounting. But I was a marketing major. So finished with a marketing degree, did that for a couple of years, and then transitioned into the role that I'm in now, which is Director of Spiritual Formation at Wright Christian Academy in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so in that role, I get to serve as kind of campus pastor, kind of Bible teacher, kind of event planner.
Yeah.
And it's just a really fun opportunity to connect with kids, get to pour into their lives. Hopefully, I've learned so much in that role. Nothing will show you how much you don't know, like teaching. So it's been really fun. But yeah.
What would be your why? What's your why for that position?
That's a great question. So my mind goes to, are you familiar with Don Clifton, StrengthsFinder? So guy named Don Clifton, I think he was back in like the 80s, I want to say. But he did a lot of research on how our strengths play into our success.
Okay.
And he came up with this thesis that's essentially you will be a more effective leader so if leadership is influence, like John Maxwell says, you will be better able to leverage that influence in positions of leadership, positions of authority, if you maximize your strengths as opposed to spending your energy minimizing your weaknesses. Not that we want to be like unaware of our weaknesses or ignore them, but if you spend all of your time, so for me, I'm not naturally like a numbers oriented or a task oriented. I'm just not detail oriented. So kind of, if I want to be more effective in my roles, there's two things I could do. I could either spend all of my time just doing tasks and trying to get better at tasks, or I could lean into what's kind of naturally a gifting of mine, which is casting vision, dreaming, considering what could be. So all that to say, that's kind of the premise of Clifton's Strengths Finders. My top 5 are belief, communication, context, connectedness, and woo, which are basically just ways of kind of saying, these are like my realms of working genius. These are the things that just come naturally to me that I'm good at as part of my personality, part of my innate bendness.
Yeah.
And in college, I started realizing that belief aspect of that is really strong for me. I have a very strong kind of justice orientation, very strong ideological orientation, where I view the world through the lens of my spiritual presuppositions, my biblical presuppositions. And that's really, really important to me. And leaning into opportunities to talk about that or to instill that really brings me a lot of energy, a lot of fulfillment. And so that started making me think, whatever I do, I want to do something where I'm helping other people.
Sure.
And I'm helping them tap into these truths that I've discovered in my own life and in my study of scripture, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been kind of the why for me, is when this opportunity arose, I was like, this is literally a perfect opportunity to connect with people, because I love working with people, and to talk about the stuff that really, really matters, to lean into that belief aspect of who I am.
So it's really cool. It's really cool hearing your story, because you went to college thinking you would do this.
Yeah.
You found out, no, sir.
Yep.
But you leaned in. You were very intentional about your strengths.
Yeah.
And you not only pursued that in college, but now outside of college, you've got your job.
Yeah.
Where you really get to focus on your strengths and grow in that. And rather than, because so often, like you said, I mean, you can try to bring someone out of their weakness. And I would argue,
right,
people can do anything.
Yeah.
Regardless of weaknesses, because we all want to say, well, I've got too many weaknesses, I can't do
Absolutely.
X, Y, Z.
Absolutely.
And I think you can overcome those things. But yeah, so good to lean into your intention, because God has made us unique.
Yeah.
With unique giftings and abilities. And when we lean into them, I think we're the best version of ourselves. It's our unique gifting, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, that's ultimately, it's a really Pauline idea, is like the body is made up of different members for a reason. The hand needs the brain, needs the eye, needs the ear, needs the foot, needs the big toe. So we're all created with different innate proclivities or tendencies or capacities.
Yeah.
Because we fill different roles. I think so often it's easy to get into kind of a comparison trap and be like frustrated with ourselves for being weak in a particular area. So much so that we blind ourselves to what we're actually really good at.
Yeah.
So we want to be self-aware about our weaknesses, because we don't want to be problems for other people. Like there was
I didn't
definitely
wet the bed last night.
Yeah, exactly.
That was you.
And going to college, I really struggled with a lack of self-discipline, just in terms of like turning in assignments, things like that. So that's where, my lack of task orientation could be a problem. So I had to address it on that level. Be like, no, I need to turn in homework. That's like an important thing. Yeah, I get bad grades when I don't do the work. But giving myself the grace to be like, okay, but there are things that I'm really good at, that if I lean into that'll bring me a lot of energy and fulfillment and benefit other people as well.
Sure.
So yeah, it's meaningful. And I think something I should note along with this is the role that other voices played in my development in that. We had a guy who oversaw kind of the student leadership at Oklahoma Wesleyan named Ben Rotz, who also runs his own strengths coaching firm on the side. So he's a certified strengths coach and was able to kind of walk through a lot of this with me and help me understand me, which was really, really pivotal for me. It was really cool and enlightening. And so I think that's where like accountability is huge.
So let's talk about accountability for a sec.
Yeah.
So this guy came in, he does strength training.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he does some mindset training too.
Yeah,
or
totally.
What would you call that? Coaching? What would you call
Coach?
it?
Yeah, I think coaching.
But he helped you understand what makes you you and where you needed to fill in the gaps.
Right. Yeah.
Do you continue to have accountability in your life now, or is it?
Yeah.
Is it? I'm like I follow you on Facebook, and one reason I reached out to you is because I know you're super consistent and you have some goals with fitness.
Yeah.
But even just my point in saying this is even a post on Facebook can be accountability, right?
100%. Yeah, totally. I started a dedicated fitness page on Instagram because I had been posting all my fitness content on just my regular page. And I started a dedicated workout page with the thought being, I want to be able to look back. It's almost like a form of
journal.
Accountability for myself. It's a journal. Yeah. In fact, the other day I went back to my first, I think I've got like 100 something posts now. I started in the beginning of 2022, and I went back to my very first post, and I was like, who's that skinny dude? And so it was really cool to be able to look back at that. So you can absolutely do things like that to keep yourself accountable. You're almost establishing your former self as your ongoing accountability partner. But I also have just been blessed to be able to lean into accountability with a lot of church friends.
Okay.
One of my really close friends, Tucker, is one of those guys who, on a spiritual level too, is someone who has looked at me and said, I think you're responding out of your frustration, not your beliefs. And so yeah, having somebody like that in your life, whether you're establishing your former self as your ongoing accountability partner, you're finding an actual person who can do that, who you can trust. I think that's so critical to staying the best you possible.
I agree. For me, I actually, this year's first year, there's a guy named Brandon Turner. He's a real estate guru.
Yeah.
But he has a book. I'll call it a club. He called it a tribe, but it's called Better Life Tribe.
Okay, cool.
And I actually signed up for it in January. And I'm on Monday at noon. I get on a Zoom call, and there's 6 other guys on there, and we call it a pod.
Yeah.
But we have weekly commitments that we set down and make, and we score ourselves.
Totally.
And we say, hey, I got an 86 last week. This is what I did well. This is what I did not do well. These were my goals for the quarter, and these are my commitments for next week.
Yeah.
And then everyone else gets to ask you questions and say, why didn't you hit?
Absolutely.
What else is in your life?
Oh,
but I actually paid for that.
Yeah.
It's $3,000, but I paid for it because I told my wife, I said, listen, this accountability, this weekly accountability will be huge.
Absolutely.
And the Bible says as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another.
Yeah.
2 are better than 1. I mean, there's all kinds of verses in regards to the strength of other people. And so, I couldn't agree with you more about accountability and personal development and growing us, how we need each other. I think that's one thing. I didn't mean to go off on this, but I'm gonna. One thing that's lacking right now with social media pages is these pages that are intended to give us community are giving us a false community. And we need these one-on-one conversations to say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
I think you use filters on your stuff. And
totally.
You're only showing me your good stuff on social.
Yeah.
What's really going on?
Yeah. Oh, that's so true, man. And one of the things I was thinking about a while back, I think that so often social media is so deceptive because we have these different words that we throw around like connection. I think we do get connection on social media.
You do.
We don't get communion. And that's the part where
it's not as authentic.
Yeah.
And that's where the communion,
Yeah. Communion is where the mutual sharpening happens. It's in time spent together. So I can connect with somebody over a DM. I can like somebody's photo and that's a form of connection. But that's not time invested.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not FaceTime.
It's not like this.
Yeah, it's not like this. Yeah. And I think that, accountability is so, I think that we've lost a sense of, and this may just be more of a me kind of opinion, but I think that postmodernism has kind of done us dirty with respect to accountability because it's convinced everybody that the individual is sufficient. And we're just discovering in all kinds of statistical ways that we're not, with anxiety, depression, suicidality rates, what they are, we're discovering we're discovering the need for community in really tragic ways. And so I think that accountability is one of those ways that you can be proactive and say, I know it's sooner or later I'm going to have community. I'd rather it be while I'm healthy and getting healthier. So yeah, I don't know.
And what do they say? You're the same person today as in 5 years from now, except for the people you meet.
Yeah.
And the books you read.
Books you read. Yep.
But it's so easy to stay in our little hermit home and not learn and grow and not have relationships with people that maybe they make us mad.
Yeah.
but that can grow you too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Growth is painful.
Mm-hmm.
Flatlining is lethal.
Yeah.
So growth isn't fun. Like it's not most of the time. Like these kinds of conversations are really enriching.
Mm-hmm.
And like these conversations are fun to have. But when you and I go home and then put into practice all the stuff that we talk about, like it's not as fun as the conversation that we had talking about it.
Yeah, for sure.
But flatlining kills.
Mm-hmm.
Flatlining is death, you know, if you want to think about it in terms of like
You said lethal.
like, yeah,
ago. That's
yeah.
a good word.
Yeah. You know, and it's not even, whether it's a physical death or not, relationships suffer, finances suffer,
Mm-hmm.
every aspect of your life diminishes instead of expanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think accountability is so crucial.
Ben, tell me about fitness. When
Yeah.
did you get into fitness? Was that college? Was that?
Yeah.
I don't remember you prior to college. Were you into it much?
Not
Was
not
it mostly college? Was that?
I would say not in an intentional way.
Okay.
Until college. Yeah, I had always kind of messed around with fitness, and like we did that push-up challenge, I think when I was like probably like 14, and I made it till like we started out doing.
Tell everyone about the push-up.
Yeah, the push-up challenge was at church. We started out 100 push-ups a day in January, and then 200 in February, so forth. So you added 100 per day. I think I made it.
I think it was every week, right?
It was every month. Every
You went
month
up-
you would increase.
Okay, and you had to
So-
do that many per day,
Yes. So the idea was by December we're doing 1,200 push-ups a day.
which sounds really cool, and
Yeah.
honestly would work because it's compound effect, but it's time. That's what I found.
Time. Yeah, that's so true. So a couple years ago, I think that year, which that was probably like 2013-ish, 2012,
Yeah.
2013. So I would have been like 13 or 14. I got to like June or July, and I was doing 600-700 push-ups a day, but I was homeschooled. I'm just sitting at home all day, you know. Not sitting at home, but I'm at home. I have flexibility. I have time.
Yeah.
A couple years ago on Thanksgiving, I did actually 2 years in a row. I did 1,000 push-ups on Thanksgiving Day, and and that gave me a glimpse of like, oh yeah, this was not feasible for 30 days at a time, because it was like every couple of minutes I'm having to do a set, and by the end of the day, I mean you're so fatigued you can only do 5 push-ups at a time, 10 push-ups at a time.
Yeah.
And so
That's all I
pretty
can
brutal.
do at a time anyway.
it's totally fair. I love that. Oh man. But yeah, so I had done little things like that. But in college, I love talking about my fitness experience because there's so much on social media right now about, you know, for a long time, fitness culture became really toxic, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The comparison trap is very real on social media. And there have been a lot of really good voices responding to that, saying like, hey, we need better authenticity. We need more genuine content about fitness. And I totally agree with that. But I think that sometimes we you know, scripture says don't discount the day of small beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I don't think my fitness journey really started in a great place, but it still led to growth and led into greater health.
Yeah.
So for me, it was it was the spring of 2021 was when I really started getting intentional about my fitness. And what it was is I had been dating Kirsten for 8 months, my now wife. And Kirsten was an ex-college athlete. She had graduated before me and was teaching full time. So she was kind of ahead of me in life in a lot of ways. And anytime we would play like sports together, I was like, oh yeah, you're definitely ahead of me in like every facet. And so so we were dating and I was going to propose that summer and I was getting really excited about that. But I also had kind of this nagging sense that like, I didn't feel physically big enough for the responsibilities I was about to assume. So I was about to graduate college. I was about to get a full-time job. I was about to become a husband, you know, within not that much longer, hopefully become a father, all of that kind of stuff. And I felt like when I looked in the mirror, I was like, I don't see a dude who's man enough for those things. And so I started working out. I was like, I'm going to get bigger. I'm going to get stronger. And looking back, like that's a very like temporal way of looking at life. That's probably not a great mentality.
Let me cut in here.
Yeah.
You should read a book called The Men We Need.
Bet. Okay.
Highly recommend it. I had him on here
Write that
about
down.
a month ago. The Men We Need.
Cool.
what you did to become a man, Ben, is exactly what Hollywood or we're told to do, and that is get big muscles, right?
Yeah.
And if you get big muscles, then you're a man.
Right.
To put a little blurb in for The Men We Need,
Yeah.
Brant Hansen, he so emphasizes that is not what a real man looks like.
Absolutely.
And everyone should read that book, get the book, whatever. It's a good book, and it's about true manhood, and it's about protecting and being keepers of our garden. It's from a biblical standpoint, but that's a good book.
That's cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to read that for sure. I just got onto Audible. I'm pretty excited about that.
I love Audible.
I've been audibling. Was it Brant or Brent?
Brant.
Brant Hansen. Okay.
He's on Audible. He reads it himself. He has the best
Cool.
sense of humor. You will laugh out loud a few times.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. Book recommendations. I love it. Yeah, but that was kind of where fitness began for me. And that was
wanting to be a
thing.
man for your fiance.
Yeah, for my fiance, for my future life, for my responsibilities. I was like, I don't feel strong enough for these things, and so I'm going to get stronger. And looking back, not the healthiest outlook to have, but I started noticing a ripple effect where I was not a model student in college, but as I gave myself goals and started meeting those goals physically,
being intentional,
that intentionality started carrying over into my grades, into my internship I did that summer. It carried over into everything. It also, I started running that summer. And so we had a trail in Bartlesville around the school, and I'd go run 5, 6, 7 miles a couple of times a week. And that was a sense of accomplishment I had never experienced before. So even though it began in, I would say, a place of insecurity, it still led to growth.
I'm not trying to downgrade insecurity.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
I was listening to you. I thought, man, I need to put this in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I would not recommend to people to have the mindset that I started with. Absolutely.
When I bought my first pickup truck,
I
had bought a chainsaw around the same time. And I told my wife, man, I feel like such a man.
Yeah.
I have a truck and a chainsaw.
Yeah. That's all. I think that's all there is to manhood, right?
Yeah, you feel so good.
Yeah.
But to Brand's point in his book,
yeah,
manhood is so much more.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The emotional component of manhood is huge. And that was the part I had to learn much later on, that I didn't initially really get right there.
Did you get married while in college, or were you out?
I graduated. Okay. Yeah, so I graduated in the fall of 21, and then we got married summer of 22.
Okay.
Yeah, so I graduated, started worked about 6 months, and then we got married, which was great. It was a good timeline. Look, a 10-month engagement sucked. I didn't like that, but it was a great timeline. So yeah. But yeah, so fitness became just kind of a regular routine for me. And the more I did it, the more achievable it became. So I remember the first time I deadlifted 315, which in deadlift numbers, like for powerlifters, is nothing now.
Yeah.
But the first time I deadlifted 315, my back was so arched, terrible form. But I was like, oh my gosh, I just deadlifted like twice my weight at the time, literally twice my weight. And so I, like that sense of accomplishment just inaugurated something in me where suddenly I understood how capable I was, and that had tremendous effect just in all areas.
It's so powerful, and that's if I could help the audience get one thing, it's that, like, kill complacency, live intentionally in one area of life.
Yeah,
because it will probably have compound effects in other areas.
Absolutely, because
you will grow confidence, you'll grow. I mean, there's a book called Make Your Bed, and that's his point.
Yeah.
Make your bed. It sets the tone for the day. If the whole day goes to pot, when you come, at the end of the day, when you come in, you see you made your bed.
My bed's made.
You said, I did one thing today.
Absolutely.
So, compound effect. And I've watched you grow with your fitness. I've watched your PRs changing.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I knew you as a little scrawny kid.
Right. I was tiny, dude.
And that was fine. but yeah. You've been intentional, and you've posted 100, you said 190 videos?
100 and something like that. Let's check. Let's see here.
So a whole bunch of videos.
Yeah.
And the compound of that, like, people are like, well, I can't post 190
150.
Videos. 150.
Yeah.
But it's just every time you do it, you post. Post.
Yeah.
Post.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of those videos are fails too. Like, so I post my PRs. One of the things I knew I had to do starting out is like, I've also got to post a few fails here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this conversation I teach strength and conditioning at the school, which is not what I was hired to teach, but it might be my favorite thing to teach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a ton of fun. But one of the things I was telling my students in strength and conditioning is one of the things I love about fitness is that it makes palpably apparent to you that there is no success without failure. Like, I had to fail my 365 squat before I got my 365 squat because I had to try it. And I realized, okay, I'm not strong enough yet. So I had to go back and do some more hypertrophy, some more progressive overload to get the 365 squat. Right now, I'm trying to hit 405 so hard. I've hit 395. I'm trying to get 405. And I have failed. I've attempted either 400 or 405 probably several times. And I'm kind of at a plateau right now. But every time I do it, I'm like, okay, well,
next.
Now I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
I know what I got to work on. So yeah, it's a really.
But if you're afraid to fail,
Bingo.
you'll never ever.
Yeah.
Number one, you'll never go for it.
Yeah.
And number two, you won't ever find your limit either.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's. We don't often think fear of failure is fear of success, because you cannot succeed without failure. But we don't think of it like that. Like, we just think of the failure, which makes it a lot easier to dismiss the uncomfortable part of growth, like we were talking about. So.
Something I'm trying to incorporate, and I think my kids are understand failure is good, but something I've tried to incorporate recently is at supper time, we'll talk about something we're proud of for the day.
Yeah.
Something we failed at, and something that made us laugh.
I love that.
But nobody wants to talk about number two.
Yeah.
But we all have one, you know?
Yes.
Maybe it was, I don't know. Well, I'll tell you one. We were trying to get rid of some cats today.
Oh, yeah.
Wild cats. We didn't feed them yesterday. Not yesterday. We pulled the food last night.
Yeah.
So they'd be hungry.
Yeah.
And I'm sure tonight this is going to be the story, is we had the wildest kitten caught.
Yeah.
And I won't say which one, but one of my sons reached in the cage to get the one next to it, and out came the wildest cat.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't think we'll catch now.
Right.
But I want to celebrate the fail because now we know what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we get to learn and grow from it. So
yeah, 100%. And that's where, yeah, you just learn so much more in your failures than your successes. So this was my first year in kind of a different direction. This is my first year teaching. Like I said, my degree's marketing. Just finished my first year teaching Bible. So I took a job where I'm teaching. Don't have a degree in that. Bible, don't have a degree in that. And
Ben, hate to break it to you, but you probably won't use your college degree much in life.
That's fair. Yeah. But I was like, there were so many points this year where I had to take a step back and be like, okay, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And at times I'd get frustrated with myself, and there were moments of thinking like, is this something I really should have taken a job in? Mm-hmm. Because I had so many moments of being like, that didn't work. And at some point I had to tell myself, no, this is just the natural progression of, I'm new at this. Mm-hmm. I'm getting better at this. And part of getting better at this is recognizing all the ways in which I'm not good at it yet. Yeah. I think I'm a good communicator, but there are aspects of teaching that just don't come naturally to me. So I had to kind of come face to face with like, I'm just not naturally going to be good at this job, but I'm going to get better, and that's okay.
Yeah. And that's to the point earlier. Just because you have a weakness doesn't mean you can't do it.
Absolutely.
You can certainly lean in and do it, and you can focus on your strengths with teaching and figure out how to implement those into it.
Totally. That's so true.
I can't remember his name. What's the guy, the leader of Life Church? What's his name?
Craig Rochelle.
Great
mind.
Do you know he failed? He tried and tried.
Yeah.
And church board after church board told him no.
Yeah.
But look at him. Everyone says he's a great communicator. He's awesome. He, on a given Sunday, he talks to 70,000 people.
Yeah.
But people said, you're a failure.
Right.
But he kept going.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man, that's so true. it's so funny. I've been listening to a lot of different kind of leadership specifically in the church space podcasts. So I've been listening to like Rich Wilkerson, Chad Veach is a great one. All of these guys reference Craig Groeschel.
Really?
He's like industry standard for leadership now. And he's like, I would say in the church world, he's kind of a John Maxwell. And so it's just crazy to like now this next generation, for lack of a better phrase, of leaders is all like, oh yeah, look at Craig Groeschel.
Yeah.
He's just done such an incredible job. And I think part of that is he gets how to talk to people. Like when he, the context I grew up in, I heard him kind of trashed a lot. and then when I went to, which is not a slam on.
Part of that's because we were scared of him, I think.
Totally. I think so. Yeah. And as I got older and started being exposed to just kind of broader things, I guess, I started listening to some of the way he taught. I was like, this guy understands how to connect with people. And so when he speaks, people resonate. It hits a chord that needs to be hit.
Yeah.
So people are just drawn. Now people are drawn to what he does, but he had to put in the work to get there. He had to fail a bunch. Yeah.
And be okay with it.
Absolutely.